It's currently night 23 in the game, and Oolana returns from tribal council after voting out Iran. Avery Lee fills in Marvin that she had to tell Jonathan to vote Sierra last minute because she feared the vote would tie. It made the most sense to throw Sierra's name out there because it was the most believable name to come out of her mouth. Marvin says he wasn't a major fan of that because it caused so much paranoia. He almost used his idol, but he's glad he saved it. Avery Lee tells him they can still move forward as a 5 to take out Jonathan and Nicola. Meanwhile, Jonathan immediately finds Sierra and tells her why he voted for her. He throws Avery Lee under the bus for lying to him that she was the vote. Sierra finds this very intriguing and asks him why he trusted her at that moment, and Jonathan says the plan all along was to vote out either her or Marvin. He adds that he's just letting her know this so she doesn't think he wanted her out all along. Later, Sierra finds Bane and asks him if he voted her just earlier. Bane admits he did and says he's really pissed off with how things were managed because the Whispers pressured him into doing something. Sierra says she's hearing at this point that Avery Lee is the one behind this vote split on her and Iran, and Bane says she probably had good intentions to prevent a possible tied vote between Iran and Antonio. Sierra shrugs and says she's still fairly stunned by what went down. Antonio, Nicola, Marvin, and Avery Lee all chat, and Marvin wants things to be cleared up. He tells Avery Lee that he doesn't understand what the Whispers were for last night, so Avery Lee admits in front of Antonio and Nicola that she simply did not want the vote to potentially tie, so she wanted Jonathan to throw his vote onto a random person, in this case Sierra. Nicola asks her if her intention was to vote Iran out the whole time, and Avery Lee says it was the plan for her, Marvin, Sierra, Bane, and Antonio. Antonio looks to the side as she says that, and then Nicola asks him if it's true. Antonio nods and says it was the plan all along. Nicola says she's not going to feel any differently about anyone even though she lost her good friend and ally. She understands that it's a game, and people are here to play for themselves. It's day 24, and it's time for the reward challenge. In this, someone will compete against someone else in a horseshoe throwing race. The goal is to throw the horseshoe into the pit and have the two ends of the horseshoe face you to score a point. After 45 seconds, the player who scores the most times will win the round and pick the next two to face off. The last player standing will win a picnic that they can share with a few others, where they can enjoy some refreshing drinks and kava. The challenge starts off with a random duel, and the two chosen by random draw are Marvin and Sierra. They begin their round, and after 45 seconds, the score is 4-3, with Sierra scoring 4 times. Marvin is eliminated, so Sierra picks Bane and Antonio to face off next. The two of them begin throwing, and rally up points fairly quick. In the end, Antonio scored 4 times, while Bane scored 5 times, allowing him to move on. Bane then picks Sierra and Nicola to face off, so they do. After some throws, Nicola struggled and only got 2 points, while Sierra got 3 points. Sierra then picks the next two to face off, and she chooses Bane once again, along with Jonathan this time. The two of them face off, and in the end, Bane moves on scoring 3 points against Jonathan's 2 points. Sierra and Avery Lee automatically face off next, and the two of them complete their round. Sierra scored 3 times, while Avery Lee scored 4 times, meaning Sierra is finally out of this challenge. This leaves Avery Lee and Bane to battle it out, and after throwing their horseshoes for 45 seconds, Avery Lee scored 3 times and Bane scored twice, meaning Avery Lee is the winner of the reward challenge. Justin lets her know she will have to pick 3 other people to join her on this picnic, leaving the remaining 3 at camp. She then says she'll take Bane, Nicola, and Sierra. They all head out to their picnic, while Marvin, Antonio, and Jonathan head back to camp. At the reward, Avery Lee lets everyone know she will make the drinks for everyone, so they all go to relax for a bit while she does that. Bane lets everyone know they also have toothbrushes so they can finally brush their teeth properly. He takes one for himself and brushes his teeth for a bit, Avery Lee then lets them all know the kava and the refreshers are ready, so they dig in. Bane then thanks Avery Lee for picking them for this special picnic, and she says it's not a problem. She felt really bad for what happened last night since she understands she was the root of the problem for the chaos. Sierra says she really doesn't mind and she didn't have to pick her for reward for that specific reason. Avery Lee says it's more than that. She truly appreciates their fight in this game and recognizes all three of them as respectable players. Nicola appreciates her words and says she really felt awful this morning waking up without Iran. Once again, like she mentioned last night, it won't affect her moving forward in the game. Avery Lee thanks her for her honesty. Back at Oolana camp, Antonio and Jonathan chat up some game while they are alone. Jonathan asks Antonio if they can team up for this next tribal council so they both make it through another round. Antonio says he's obviously still skeptical from the last vote since it was clear he planned to vote for him until last second. Jonathan said he actually tried to convince Iran and Nicola to vote Sierra, but Iran kept pushing back. Jonathan continues to tell Antonio that Iran was the one who wanted him gone, and Nicola only followed along with what Iran said. Antonio then says they can work together because he believes what he's saying, and then asks who he would vote for next tribal. Jonathan says it would obviously be between Sierra and Marvin since Marvin exposed his own idol to everyone. Antonio says they'll talk more about it and hopefully get 5 votes to split between those two. Night 24 hits, and the 4 from the picnic reward return to camp. They see Jonathan running towards them and then he asks how the reward was. They each describe how relaxing the picnic was. Marvin, Antonio, and Bane later chat about future plans. Marvin says he trusts the two of them still since it's clear Jonathan and Nicola aren't working with him. He then asks them if they would feel comfortable voting out Jonathan since he's pretty good in challenges, and both of them agree. Marvin then tells them he'll split away so they don't look suspicious, and he walks off. Bane and Antonio then discuss, and Bane thinks it's dangerous right now to keep Marvin with his idol until final 6. Antonio agrees, and says Jonathan promised that him and Nicola would vote with the two of them and Avery Lee to split on Sierra and Marvin. Bane says he believes that because he doesn't see Jonathan working with Marvin and Sierra after that last vote. Antonio also points out that Jonathan might not trust Avery Lee, but that's fine at the moment because he's also fairly suspicious of her. Bane takes note of that and says he'll keep an eye out on her in the case she tries to pull something off again. Nicola and Avery Lee chat in the meantime and Avery Lee informs her that she thinks they should be a secret duo as they are technically in 2 different alliances. She says Bane and Antonio are with her, while Nicola has Jonathan. Nicola agrees and says she trusted her ever since she flipped on Cindy. Avery Lee says that at this point, she doesn't want to do anything with Marvin and Sierra, so one of them need to go. After they go, she'll do her best to protect her from Bane and Antonio, and would expect the same from her telling Jonathan not to target her and to instead target the boys. Nicola promises and says she would love to make final 2 with her. As the sun rises, Marvin, Sierra, Jonathan, and Nicola are still awake, and they discuss this round's vote. Marvin leads this conversation by letting all 3 of them know he doesn't trust Antonio and Bane right now, and he most definitely will never trust Avery Lee again. He offers that the 4 of them vote together tomorrow night to break up the 3 of them. Jonathan tells Marvin straight up that his idol makes him nervous, so Marvin says he's going to use it tomorrow to make him less nervous. Sierra says she's down to vote out one of those 3 because at this point, a trio going into final 6 is too dangerous. Nicola says she'll do it if everyone else is doing it, so they all then split off. It's day 25, meaning it's time for the immunity challenge. Bane hands over his immunity necklace from the previous round, and Justin starts explaining the rules of this challenge. In this, everyone will need to gather up the scattered items in their pen and then put them each into the storage box one by one. After that, complete the puzzle on the table. The first person to finish their puzzle will win individual immunity, safe from the vote. The other 6 will be vulnerable tonight at Tribal Council. The challenge starts, and Bane and Marvin take the early lead with 1 item in the box. Everyone else is close together, and nobody is too far behind. After more time, Bane and Marvin finish getting all items in their box and move on. A few moments later, the other 5 also finish. Everyone begins working on the puzzle, which will be the true decider. Avery Lee has a fast lead right off the bat, and Antonio struggles quite a bit starting off. Marvin later swipes Avery Lee's lead, but she, Jonathan, and Bane are close behind. Antonio continues to struggle in this challenge, making him completely out of it. Sierra and Nicola also start to lose hope as they are far behind the other 4. Avery Lee and Jonathan put in more pieces and take the lead from Marvin. They continue to remain neck and neck, and then Jonathan is just down to 2 pieces. Jonathan then completes his puzzle and wins individual immunity, safe from the vote tonight. Justin puts on his necklace and claims he's safe, and that someone else will become the 15th person voted out of the game and the 5th member of the jury. They all then head back to their camp. At Oolana, Antonio hugs Jonathan and congratulates him on the win. Jonathan thanks him and says their plan is definitely still on. He suggests Marvin should go in the case he doesn't use his idol, but Antonio is very worried he'll use the idol on himself tonight after the events 2 days ago. Jonathan tells him to trust the fact that Marvin will not use his idol, so Antonio says he'll do it. Avery Lee and Bane later chat, and Bane confirms with her that the vote is Marvin tonight. Avery Lee thanks him for filling her in and says there won't be a reason for her to flip anything last minute again. Bane then warns her she needs to chill out a bit because Antonio has been catching on and saying he doesn't trust her anymore. Avery Lee is a bit stunned and says if Antonio doesn't trust her anymore, they aren't a solid trio. Bane says they need to remain together to survive the others for now, but when the time comes, they can cut him, perhaps at Final 4. Nicola later finds Avery Lee and pulls her aside to talk about tonight's vote. Nicola points out that currently, Marvin and Sierra want either Bane or Antonio out, while Bane and Antonio want Marvin gone. Avery Lee says she's a bit worried about Marvin's idol because he could easily play it for himself tonight. Nicola then suggests if they should maybe just vote Bane or Antonio, assuming the idol will be played, but Avery Lee thinks it's not worth losing trust from the both of them. Nicola later finds Jonathan and talks with him about this vote. She says they are essentially the swing votes. Jonathan says he's definitely leaning more towards working with Antonio and Bane, but Nicola says she'd much rather vote them out so they can reel Avery Lee into their duo to form a new trio. She also thinks Marvin is going to use his idol tonight, so it's not smart to upset him and Sierra. Jonathan says he's unsure if the idol will be used or not, but isn't too worried anyway because Marvin and Sierra plan to vote Antonio or Bane. Nicola breathes out and tells Jonathan she's a bit worried about this Marvin plan. She doesn't fully trust Bane and Antonio remaining in the game with Avery Lee as it leaves them as a clear trio. Night 25 hits, and it's time for Tribal Council. Everyone sits down and Justin congratulates Jonathan on his second individual immunity. Jonathan thanks him and says his 2 wins weren't for nothing. Now that the game is coming down to the wire, every win matters. Sierra agrees and says being in the final 7 is terrifying because absolutely everyone is in danger in some manner. Everyone nods to that statement. Justin then asks Marvin about his idol since he revealed it last tribal. Marvin says it still stands that he might use his idol. He's finding it very difficult to trust people because he has been lied to for every merged tribal except the Michaela vote. Sierra nods and even points out that Avery Lee has personally lied to her over 3 times already. Avery Lee then says Sierra has lied more times than her because she keeps saying they are good when she knows they aren't good ever since the Cindy tribal. She obviously won't tell Sierra everything about her game because she has the feeling Sierra would cut her soon anyway. Justin asks Marvin if he understands why people have flipped on him multiple times so far, and Marvin says he doesn't get it. He says the majority alliance could have gotten far as they had a clear list of people to cut once it got down to it. Those people are already out before the people outside of that alliance, and that's only because Avery Lee decided to team up with Reibu at the time. Justin turns to Nicola and asks her what role she plays tonight since she's not getting too much heat right now, and Nicola says she's not in a power position at all because she has been on the bottom quite a few times now. She just lost Iran, her closest friend in the game, so she remains nervous tonight. Justin then ends the discussion and says it's time to vote. Let's see how Tribal turns out now.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Alright, I'll read the votes. First vote. Marvin. Antonio. That's one vote Marvin, one vote Antonio. Marvin. 2 votes Marvin, 1 vote Antonio. Antonio. We're tied, 2 votes Antonio, 2 votes Marvin. Marvin. That's 3 votes Marvin. Antonio. We're tied again. 3 votes Antonio, 3 votes Marvin, 1 vote left. 15th person voted out of Survivor Japan and the 5th member of our jury. Marvin.
Marvin's head drops and then he turns to the jury and sees Orneal shake his head. Sierra side-eyes the rest as Marvin gets up to grab his torch. He places it down and watches Justin snuff it. He heads out quietly, leaving Sierra feeling all alone. Justin lets everyone know they can head back to camp, so they begin making their way there. Next time on Survivor Japan, all 6 remaining players have their own story to make it up to this point in the game. With finale in sight, 4 people will be voted out, leaving just 2 to face the final jury vote. In the span of 4 days straight, 4 will be voted out, and 1 will be crowned sole survivor. Who will see their downfall in this finale? Who will rise to the top and come out victorious? Find out during the 4-part episode starting Sunday and ending Wednesday. Marvin's final thoughts. Marvin has no one to blame but himself for keeping his idol with him. He had a feeling something wasn't right since nothing has gone right for him the last few rounds. He believes that Jonathan and Nicola wanted him out all along and likely made a deal with Antonio and Bane right after the final 8 tribal council. At the moment, he thinks Sierra has no chance making it to finale since she sucks in challenges, and he wouldn't be shocked if Avery Lee, Bane, or Antonio ended up winning this whole season.